So I guess Tucker Carlson claimed that he was being mauled by a demon in his sleep. Check this out.
Do you think the presence of evil is kickstarting people to wonder about the good?
That's what happened to me.
That's what happened to you?
Oh, yeah. I had a direct...
The kickstart of evil is making people realize that they should be voting for Trump, I guess?
experience with it.
In the milieu of journalism or just...
Nope, in my bed at night, and I got attacked while I was asleep with my wife and 4 dogs in the bed and mauled.
Holy shit, bro, he has 4 dogs? That is so many dogs. And look at this propaganda that they produced. This is actually really good editing, but it's a little over the top for some stupid demon story, right?
Physically mauled.
In a spiritual attack by a demon?
Yeah, by a demon. Or by something unseen that left...
Is that right?
Claw marks on
Or something unseen.
my sides, on my...
So it left physical marks?
Oh, they're still there. Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's see him. Pull that puppy off. Lift that shirt. Let's look. Let's have a peek there, Tucker.
A year and a half ago.
Was your wife terrified? I know you were.
I wasn't. I was totally confused. I woke up and I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to suffocate, and I walked around outside, and then I walked in, and my wife and dogs had not woken up, and they're very light sleepers. And then I had these terrible pains on my rib cage and on my shoulder, and I was just in my boxer shorts, and I went and flipped on the light in the bathroom, and I had 4 claw marks on either side underneath my arms.
Great. Okay. Well, let's see it then. You know, there are a lot of people in the world that would want to see that evidence. You know how I know that this is complete nonsense, that this stuff never happens? The military would have weaponized it a long time ago if this was real, or if it was reproducible in any way. If you could pray to Satan and get better luck at anything, the military would weaponize it. There would be some sorry on the back lines who gave up his soul to win a battle. I guarantee that. It's just complete nonsense, all of it, all the way down.
And on my left shoulder, and they're bleeding.
Wait, they were bleeding?
They're bleeding, yeah. No, they're actual claw marks. And I sleep on my side, so I wasn't clawing myself. I don't have long nails. And they didn't fit my hands anyway.
Well, let's see it then. He's really not going to show us?
But yeah, that happened. So I'm not from a world where things like that happen. I never heard of anything like that happening before. I had no idea what that was. I knew it was spiritual immediately.
You did? Okay, that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was going to ask that.
I don't understand to this day. I'm not going to put it...
You didn't try to refute the spiritual part in your own mind. You went right into the...
Well, it didn't make any sense, and it doesn't now. But I'm not from a, what do they call it, faith tradition,
right, that
talks about things like that, or
you tell me you're an atheist? Is that what you're saying?
even acknowledges their existence. Like, there's nothing like that. I've never heard anybody say anything like that in my whole life.
What was the next day like?
He really has never heard anybody make a claim like that. Really? Never? Haven't we all heard that at least once? Some stupid, ridiculous story like this? My dad used to tell a story about how he was being held down in a bed by Satan, and there was a big face in front of him laughing at him, and he couldn't move, and it's because he's practicing black magic and all that other stupid stuff. I mean, it was clearly sleep paralysis for my dad, but he didn't realize that.
Well, the next morning I woke up and I thought, that was the weirdest dream I've ever had.
Oh, nice, a percolator. I love those. A coffee percolator.
That was the weirdest dream I've ever had. And then I saw blood on my sheets, and I realized that was not a dream at all. So I called my assistant, who was like the only evangelical Christian I know, well enough to call with something bizarre like that, totally bizarre like that. And she said, oh, yeah, no, that happens. Yeah, people are attacked in their bed by demons.
Oh, okay, great. Well, can we get her on the air too? Tell us the story. Does she have a recording of the call? Anything, like literally anything at all? I'll take whatever.
What? What are you even talking about? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not leaving anything out, and I'm not pretending to understand that. I can only say what happened to me, and that did happen to me. And then I was seized with this very intense desire to read the Bible, which I then started.
When I was younger, my brother was disfellowshipped from Jehovah's Witnesses, but he still believed it. He was, 20 maybe, and there were no Jehovah's Witness women in our congregation. There just weren't. They were just like, our congregation was just too small for it. So my brother, 20 years old, didn't have anybody to marry. So he started hanging out with people from work, and he gets with a girl, and, you know, that was the end of it. He gets disfellowshipped for it, but he still believed all of it. And he tried to come back multiple times. Now, coming back to Jehovah's Witnesses is an arduous process. It takes like 6 months to a year minimum. You have to write letters, and you have to show up and be shunned every single meeting, every single week for 6 months to a year. It's miserable. And he said when he started going back to the meetings, he started having nightmares about demons and stuff. There's another story. Everyone's got a stupid story like this. I mean, you know, my brother believed it. I don't think he believes that stuff anymore, obviously, but this is not an incredibly uncommon story. Unfortunately, there is no evidence for any of it. Literally none. Zero. And this is yet another. Just chalk this up as another story with no evidence at all. I mean, he says there's evidence, but he's not giving it to us for some reason.
Which I then started without any study aids or anything. I bought a Bible that didn't have any. I'm not interested in editorializing in the Bible. I just want to read it and see what's in there myself.
Okay. I mean, it's a really, really old book, and I feel like you probably need some degree of like explanation for a lot of stuff, right?
I have very low levels of trust for Christian pastors, most of whom, you know, I'm just not a fan at all. And sorry to say that, but that's how I feel.
I mean, nobody has a problem with that.
And so I don't want to hear other people's opinions. I just want to see what's in there. And so I spent 1.5 years reading it, and then I started rereading it. And it was just a transformative experience for me. But
wait a minute. Wait. When did he say this happened? I thought he said this happened recently, but he spent 1.5 years reading the Bible and then reread it? Interesting. Well, if it's such a transformative experience, it seems like he'd be able to at least give us a month when he started doing this. Honestly, I think Tucker Carlson is just like a shill. He's just a scam artist. I have this old video of Tucker Carlson from long and long ago. Let me pull it up. Here we go. Yeah, this is the video. This is from 2003. 2003. This is when Tucker Carlson was still effectively a nobody. Not much notoriety yet. And he's talking about Bill O'Reilly here.
Another quote from your book: Bill O'Reilly's success is built on the perception that he really is who he claims to be. If he ever gets caught out of character, it's over.
that's right.
Uh-oh. Wow, that's a little on the nose.
I say before that, you know, Bill O'Reilly's really talented. He's more talented than I am. You know, he's got a lot more viewers than I do. He's a better communicator than I am. But I think there's kind of a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick.
Dude, it's so weird to hear Tucker's exact voice coming out of a little kid.
And again, as I say, the shtick is sort of built on this perception that he is the character he plays. He is every man. This kind of he's not right wing. He's a populist. This kind of Irish Catholic populist.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Fighting for you against the powers that be.
Absolutely.
And that's great as a shtick, but I'm just saying the moment that it's revealed not to be true, it's over. The moment he gets caught, you know, slapping a flight attendant on the Concorde for not bringing his champagne fast enough.
You know what's funny? That happened. Well, he didn't slap a whatever. He was at an airport, somebody out behind the counter, yelling at him like, "Do you know who I am?" The whole 9 yards. Oh my God. Wow, that was oddly specific and accurate.
Barking at, you know, one of his subordinates to take the, you know, brown M&Ms out of my bowl and get me a bottle of Evian. Fucking thing sucks. We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Bill O'Reilly's such a shithead.
Or something like that. The second that makes page 6, it's over, right? Because the whole thing is predicated on the fact that he is who he says he is. And just nobody is that person, especially not someone who makes $1 million, you know, or many millions a year, as he does.
Yeah, he pretends to be an everyman, you know, like Joe the plumber, basically. It's Bill O'Reilly's Joe the plumber, supposedly, with like 6 million viewers. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Isn't that fascinating? Like Tucker Carlson talking shit about somebody being fake. And here we sit on the other end of it with him telling us that a demon clawed him in the middle of the night. It's clear he's trying to pick up a persona, right? He's trying to be like this religious nutcase. I believe Tucker may get involved in politics beyond just being a commentator. I think there's a possibility he might run for president at some point. I guess we'll see. It's crazy to me that Tucker used to be like basically the most powerful Republican in the country. Some might argue, outside of politics, like outside of political office, the most powerful Republican in the country. And then Fox News fired him. Wow, that was wild. I'm glad they fired him. He's very clearly like a Russia shill and almost certainly in Putin's pocket and a white supremacist. I mean, Tucker Carlson, he's been lying for a living for a very long time, propagandizing. It's all pure, unadulterated propaganda and lies. I don't think he believes a word out of his own mouth, truthfully. There are some people that I believe know what they're doing and are consciously choosing to lie intentionally to deceive people. And then there are some that I think are really just suckers. They're just suckers. They got suckered into believing this stuff. Trump is very clearly lying intentionally, knowingly, and specifically because he wants to, in my opinion. Tucker, another person like that. Ben Shapiro, liar. Charlie Kirk, I think, believes the vast majority of what he says, but is a sucker at heart. Oh, yes, and I wanted to mention one more thing since we're talking about Bill O'Reilly. I think the thing that took Bill O'Reilly down was the sexual allegations, right? Anyway, listen to this clip from Tucker.
I'm laughing because this is one of about 10 stories that I know you've covered.
April 9th, 2021, by the way.
Where the government shows preference to people who have shown absolute contempt for our customs, our laws, our
complaining about immigrants.
System itself, and they're being treated better than American citizens. Now,
immigrants are being treated better than American citizens. Okay, now, before we go further in this video, we're talking about immigrants, right? Let me tell you what happened in Germany in 1933. Hitler started talking about immigrants, the Jews. He viewed them as the immigrants to the area, even though they'd been there for like hundreds of years. He claimed they were trying to replace Germans. He claimed that there were 3% of the population, basically, at the very top of society that run industry and everything else, and the Jews had infiltrated those positions. They had taken control of like the economic arm of the government, of Wall Street, of big business, of the everything, government and military and everything. They had infiltrated every part of society, was the claim. These immigrants. And you couldn't tell who was who because they look just about like the Germans, but you need to look out for a hook nose. That's what Hitler said at the time, It's called the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. And it was actually presented, I think, thousands of years ago, but it was compiled into a big document titled The Meetings of the Learned Elders of the Protocols. No. Oh, God. What's it called? Well, anyway, it's called, for short, The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And it, lays down all these ridiculous claims about Jews infiltrating society and all these areas and trying to take control and all this other stuff. Great Replacement conspiracy. Now, keep listening to what Tucker has to say here.
Know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. If this was happening in your house, if you were in 6th grade, for example, and without telling you, your parents adopted a bunch of new siblings and gave them brand new bikes and let them stay up later and help them with their homework and gave them twice the allowance that they gave you, you would say to your siblings, I think we're being replaced by kids that our parents love more. And it would be kind of hard to argue against you because look at the evidence. So this matters on a bunch of different levels, but on the most basic level, it's a voting rights question. In a democracy, one person equals one vote. If you change the population, you dilute the political power of the people who live there.
All right, I'm going to set aside his whole ridiculous nonsense about replacing children and the parents and all that other stuff. That's complete garbage, but addressing the claim that he has here about replacing the electorate or whatever. First of all, immigrants coming in lean right, actually, a lot of the time. If they're coming from like Cuba, for example, they're very right-leaning. But overall, I think it's like a 54% left to 46% right, generally, I think. So we're talking, say, I don't know, 1 million immigrants or something in the United States. I have no idea how many are trying to get citizenship right now, but let's say 1 million. 54% vote blue, 46% vote red. I mean, what's the difference on that? 540,000 vote Republican and then 460,000 vote Democrat. So we're talking like 80,000 additional votes for Democrats divided by 1 million. So that's how many people were there originally. So we're talking 0.08% increase, I believe. Could be wrong on those numbers. I'm not a mathematician or anything, but the point is it's an incredibly low percentage of people that vote blue relative to how many people are coming over the border or whatever, how much it would flip the vote. In addition to that, immigrants can't vote until they are documented. And that takes 5 to 7 years before they can get to that point. The process is they get a visa, which is like permission to come here in the first place. If they come here and they're undocumented, they come over the border, for example, then they're not immigrants, they're refugees. They're applying for asylum status as refugees. But, they're assigned a visa, I assume. I don't know how the refugee program works. They're probably given a visa, and then they have to apply for a green card, which is like a permanent residency card. It's like an ID, basically, for an immigrant. Some municipalities will sometimes allow green card holders to vote in local elections. It just depends. But to vote in federal elections, or I think in state elections either, you have to be a citizen, which means you have to spend basically 5 years as a green card holder, pretty much, and take a civics test and go through this whole gigantic process to come out the other side as a citizen. It's really difficult and time consuming. So you think Democrats are bringing in millions of people to replace the electorate when it wouldn't work for like decades, first of all, and second, they're not being naturalized. They're not being given citizenship in the first place, and third, there is nearly an even split anyway politically. This is the stupidest plan Democrats would have ever come up with. And how would Democrats possibly bring in a bunch of immigrants? Like, where does he think Democrats are finding immigrants to shuttle in? Is there any evidence of any of this? Of course not. He's a liar. That is who he is. That's what he is. He lies. And what's more, he is parroting Hitler's talking points. This is what Hitler said. This was Hitler's complaint against the Jews, that this was happening. So I'm not literally hysterical. I'm just pointing out you're literally saying what Hitler said.
So every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter.
So you're saying every time somebody has a kid, you're being disenfranchised, what you're telling me. So nobody should be having any babies then, right? Because you want your vote to be more important? U.S. citizens have the right to vote. They should have the right to vote. That's how democracy works. And also, the more people involved in elections, the more likely it goes the right way. That's why Republicans, and honestly, let me rephrase, that's why the political right worldwide throughout history in democracies have tried to suppress votes, because far-right nutcases tend to come out on top in those cases. Like, left and right were, as terms, invented in the French Revolution. People physically to the left of the president, I believe, were in favor of revolution, basically, turning it into a more like a democratic state, basically. And people to the right of the king were in favor of an aristocracy. They wanted fewer people involved in any kind of democracy, fewer people involved in having a say at the top. And the way they described the left, the way that the right described the left, was atheists, Jews, academics, philosophers, people who burn down chateaus and pillage, basically people who protest and riot. Those are the left. And the right described themselves as people who love the church, who want to maintain established traditions, who are in favor of the aristocracy, so on and so forth. The political right has always tried to push a more aristocratic, like a small subset of the population controls everything. Centralized power, basically. The right has always pushed for centralized power, and the left pushes for democratized power. So Tucker Carlson here, he's complaining that we have more democracy. He's complaining that the power is not more centralized. That's what he's laying down for us right now.
I become disenfranchised as a current voter. So I don't understand why we don't understand this. I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No.
No, that's exactly what this is. Yes, this is white replacement conspiracy. This is exactly what Hitler said.
This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
That's not happening. No one is importing whatever. The guy is completely full of shit, has always been completely full of shit. And this is just like one more example of him being full of shit. Him claiming that he was mauled by a demon in the middle of the night. And for what it's worth, Tucker Carlson is played on Russian state media. Didn't he take a job at in Russian state media recently? Tucker, let me just see. Oh my God, the cat is being an obnoxious idiot again. For some reason, I thought Tucker was taking a job at Russian state media. It happened in April 2023, but I thought there was another time. No, I guess it was April 2023. Weird. Tucker Carlson was offered a job at Russian state media in April 2023. The Kremlin offered him a job as a propagandist. That should tell you all you need to know about him. He is propagandized in Russia's favor against Ukraine since day one. He's done it so effectively that Russia started replaying clips of Tucker Carlson on their state media, like in Russia with subtitles. Listen to this one. This is from February 22nd, 2022.
It'd be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much?
This is immediately after the war started, like the day the Ukraine war started. Nobody supported Russia in this moment. But Tucker comes out here and starts speaking out in favor of Putin and the war against Ukraine.
Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years? Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl?
This is all bullshit. Like, none of this is happening. I don't need to defend any of this because it's fake. It's in his head. Well, not his. It's in everyone else's head who listens to him.
Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs?
Oh my God. Wow. I didn't realize the claim was going on back then too. Well, I mean, I guess the claim that like Asian people are eating dogs has been around for a very long time, right?
These are fair questions. And
they're not fair questions. They're both.
These are fair questions. And the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that.
Oh my God. Anyway, yeah, Russian state media have been playing that.
Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason.
That's just bullshit. All of it is bullshit. All of it.
Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about. Entire cable channels are now devoted to it.
Entire cable channels, really? Anyway, I'm just glad that Tucker's off of Fox News, honestly, but he is still around, still making waves, still laying down nonsense. BS claim after BS claim to this day. It's like a parasite you can't get rid of. And again, like he quotes Hitler a little too often for my comfort. He knows what he's doing. Tell me what you think in the comments.